Imagine, a podcast series by Imagine Theatre.
Hello again and welcome to episode 91 of this podcast series, and this time we're going to talk about another vital role in the panto creative team, that of the choreographer.
For more information, go to their website at www.imaginetheatre.co.uk.
In the last episode, we took a forensic look at ticket pricing and theatre finance with Imagine Joint CEO Sarah Bowden. If you missed it, you can still check it out along with all of the other previous episodes. Now, if you're new to the series, so far we've had a variety of guests from celebrities and backstage team members to practitioners and academics. We've discussed specific panto titles, talked about how pantomime is produced, its history and its future. So remember, you can check them out wherever you normally get your podcasts from, and don't forget to subscribe to the series so that you don't miss any future episodes. Now this time, I'm delighted to say we're going to take a look in more detail at another vital role within the creative team of any pantomime, that of the choreographer. And I've been joined by two of the very best, veteran of more than 1,000 performances at the Eden Court Theatre in Inverness, Claire Darcy. How are you?
Hello, yes, I'm fine. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, 1,000 pantos, that really makes me feel old.
And somebody who's directed and choreographed everything from opera and musical theatre to panto, of course, Mitchell Harper. How are you, Mitchell?
Hello, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, let's start at the very beginning for both of you. And Claire, where did it all start for you as a performer, let alone choreographer? Were you in a youth theatre? Did you do shows at school? How did it begin?
So it began for me up in Highland. So I am from Inverness. And up here, Highland dancing is a big thing. So I joined Highland dancing when I was 3, and I took up tap and modern and majorettes, which was a fun one for me, and Mrs. Elizabeth Fraser. So she was my first teacher and is still very much in my life and a huge supporter of me, which is wonderful.
And it's interesting, whatever anybody does in their life, they can usually trace their success down to one influential person, a teacher or somebody they looked up to as a child. Mitchell, what about you? Did it start with school shows or youth theatre? How did you begin?
Yeah, I suppose it was youth theatre in South Wales, which really does have a lot of natural talent there, which is really cool. And so I was very lucky. I had a very supportive mother that supported me going into theatre. She's actually a course leader in musical theatre for college in South Wales. So I sort of had a great introduction, although I didn't actually watch an awful lot of pantomime when I was younger. I watched a lot of musicals, but pantomime wasn't something I had a lot of exposure to. But now I've got to say it's up there with one of my biggest loves, and I absolutely love the pantomime period, and it's great that it happens every year. It's a real tradition.
What about you, Claire? Do you remember going to see panto or any other theatre as a child?
Yes, so it's the same school. They used to take us every Christmas to the pantomime, and every Boxing Eve I would go with my whole family to go and see the pantomime. And I was just absolutely desperate to get up there. And my Highland dance teacher put me to the auditions when I was 6, going on 7, and I was very lucky to get into the Junior Ensemble. So I've been doing it now since I was 7 years old. Pantomime has been a part of my life every Christmas. I've been junior chorus, I've been now adult ensemble and dance captain, and now very lucky to be working for Imagine as their choreographer. Eden Court is a very, very special place for me.
And 1,000 performances in the same venue, that's quite an achievement.
It was Imagine actually that brought it forward to me last year, that said, do you realise how many you have done? So I've done 12, 13 pantos with Imagine, and yeah, I'd done maybe 10 as a child. So many, many Christmases have been spent in that theatre.
So what was it like as a child in the juvenile chorus for you? Did that really whet your appetite to take it up professionally?
Absolutely. I just found it magical, not just, when you're in the audience, you see things, the finished production, but I loved as a child seeing the backstage and all the workings that went on, the costumes, and I wanted to be one of those adult ensemble dancers. I was always learning their routines at the side of the stage and being told to stand still. And I talked to them. It was going through all the adult ensemble members that I found out about the colleges and where to go and train. And they were so helpful. And were really passionate about what they did, that just really instilled it in me. And at 16, I asked my parents if I could go off and audition, and they have been so supportive of me. And they took me down, and I auditioned. And at 16, I left home and I went to train at MAD, Midlands Academy of Dance and Drama in Nottingham. And it's been the best thing I've ever done.
I know it well. It's only a few miles down the road from where I live. What about you, Mitchell? When did you make that decision, from youth theatre that I want to go and train and do this professionally?
I suppose it was in my teenage years that I certainly had the bug for it beforehand, but realizing that you needed to have a professional training to succeed within show business. I think the reality of the work ahead required was in my teen years, but then when you've got a passion for it, you're always willing to put in the hard work and the effort, and then being able to say that this is my career now is just incredible because it's absolutely the best career. We get to tell stories for a living and entertain people, which is just wonderful.
And when did you decide that choreography was something you might want to do? I think many dancers can appreciate the talent of a choreographer, but not many of them actually pursue that career.
No, I think it's bizarre. I think for me, I've always loved creating. I've always loved being sort of behind the scenes, working out where issues are, being creative. I just think that it's something that instead of being on stage, I've always wanted to work choreographing, being the people that tell the story.
And I said at the very beginning that you've worked in both opera and musical theatre, as well as pantomime. These are all very different, aren't they? Performance techniques and so on. And you're working with lots of different people with different disciplines, from specialist dancers through to actors and opera singers. So all of these are very different, aren't they?
Yeah, of course. So on certain operas, we'll actually employ dancers to be dancers on stage. But I think there's also a stigma with opera where people seem to think opera singers will not move. And actually, do you know what? I've always found they actually really love it. And as long as you approach them in the right way and you give them all the support that they need in order to execute what you want them to do, then it's fine. But of course, it's also just understanding that they need to be able to see, the conductor. They need to be able to support themselves breathing, so we don't really want anything that's going to affect their diaphragm, etc. But again, that's just communication. But as long as you're that person that's supportive, I've actually found that they really go for it. They're fantastic. But again, of course, when we've got the dancers on stage, we can really go for gold as well.
Claire, what about you? When did you first decide, having performed for so many years, that you wanted to choreograph?
I think I've always loved choreographing. I loved creating when I was at college, younger, thinking of music and what I would do with that song and the stories that kind of pop into my head. I was very lucky with Imagine that they gave me the dance captain role when Roy McQueen was choreographer up here. And I loved kind of taking that and making sure his pieces were, danced correctly every night, and kind of just being that head and just really helping, the dancers work on all that choreography. So when I got the chance to do it, I think I built up that relationship with Stephen, the director, and Will, the musical MD, that we have this really good bond together, this really good working connection, that I know what Stephen's wanting from that piece of music, and we can create wonderful things with him, with the actors, with the dancers, on different scenes. I just love it. I love choreographing and taking that piece of music and making it come to life.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why that panto is so successful is it's an established team. Everybody knows each other and enjoys working with each other. I'm talking about Stephen Wren, of course, and Ross Allen and yourself have been there for a number of years. I want to talk about the process now for a little bit, though, Claire. So what's the first thing you do? You may have your first meeting. You won't see a script necessarily, but you'll see perhaps the structure of the show. What's the first thing you do in terms of your involvement with a new panto?
So the first thing is finding out what that panto is going to be, and it's normally during obviously the Christmas period before, and my head's already buzzing then going, okay, Jack and the Beanstalk, right, what we're going to do for this, that next thing. That was my first year choreographing, was Jack and the Beanstalk, so it's lovely to come back again. And then, yeah, we have a meeting and we see kind of maybe what familiar faces are coming back, so we know what's their ability and what they can do. And then it's the children's auditions in August. And that gives us a real feel because by then Stephen has had some meetings and he knows a bit more about the script. He's written maybe bits with Edit Potts, and so I can see the story coming together. So then when we're auditioning all the children, you can go, yeah, we really need these good characters and those faces because they've got some, villager roles, but they've also got the evil goblins, that they've got to play. And then from there, it's just finding more and more of the cast. And we work with Will and we get the songs together. So we've now got the songs. I got the Dropbox the other day, so I've been bopping away, which has been great. And just yeah, working to get all the songs to kind of go right. We need some new ones that the kids are going to love. We need some old songs that the adults are there happy and they'll sing along and they'll know it. And we get some musical ones in there, and just piecing it all together is the first thing. So yeah, that's the first steps that we do is getting that kind of story in our heads, then the children auditions, the cast slowly coming together, and then the songs are so important.
Is that the same sort of process for you, Mitchell, from perhaps that very first meeting and an idea of which show you're doing?
I think it's similar across the board because you get the title, but as much as you have a title, you've got your points in the story which we know are all going to come. For example, you've got Cinderella, you've got the shoe, you've got the waltz, you've got the certain aspects of the production that are always going to be there. But there's certain moments which will be different within every single production. So it's just finding those moments and finding what the pace of the production is going to be. Then, of course, you are looking at your casting, and sometimes we don't know the people that we're working with. It'll be our first time working with them, which is super exciting. But sometimes, of course, they're names you've worked with, which you've got an idea of what they can do. So sometimes it's trying to just ensure that where we're making things like song choices, that we're working to the strengths of the people on stage. So there's a lot of meetings that go on behind the scenes with the creative team and the producers, trying to make sure we make the correct song choices that match the pace of the production and the talents that we have on stage. And alongside special effects, for example, there's certain special effects we've got, like Pegasus in Cinderella, that require certain additional builds within music. So it's not just a rip away costume, for example, for Cinderella. We've got a different costume, which is super exciting, but I'm not going to divulge what that is because it's relatively new and it's really cool. But Fairham will have that this year. But it means that we've had to make clever music choices to allow for that with an additional change with an additional special effect. So it's really exciting, but it's ensuring that every song is thought of. And for me, it's nice to have a balance between your musical theatre, something for perhaps the older generations, that come to the pantomime, alongside the younger children or younger generations that come. So everyone feels like they're catered for. It really does feel like it's that family production.
Yeah, and obviously, a lot of people who aren't involved in Panto might think all of this can be sorted out, months, if not years in advance, but it can't because obviously the script has to be topical. And every year, there may be one song that gets thrown up in the summer or in the autumn, even that actually everybody loves. It could be something that's, massive on TikTok. The best example I can give is something like Crazy Frog, for instance, or Baby Shark or something like that, because it's taken the whole country over and pretty much you have to have it in your panto, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. And it's something that the audience immediately relate to. And it's exciting for the audience, and especially for that younger generation where it's usually their introduction to theatre. We want them to feel really immersed in that experience. We usually email for me, my associate producer Laura gets a couple of emails from me like, "Hi Laura, we were just thinking this," when I've spoken to my lovely director Brian, and Laura usually says, "Oh, Steve Powers is definitely overwhelmed, but it's a great idea. Let me test the water with him." Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, well, this year you've got some mates of mine. You're working with Paul Burling, who's a fabulous impressionist, but also you've got AJ and Curtis. Now, AJ and Curtis, in many ways, are a dream because there aren't many principal actors in central roles who are dancers. So you can really go to town with them, can't you?
That was the first thing I was told. That first thing I was told when Brian and myself were offered the production was, Mitch, it's AJ and Curtis. And I was like, yes, I'll do it. Please, thank you. Send the contract through. It's signed. It's really exciting. And the other thing I've got to say is that AJ and Curtis come with such a nice track record. Everyone loves them.
Yeah.
Everyone loves them. And what's great is that they're two male dancers, which when we get young people in the audience, they can see that actually the boys can dance too. And it's really cool. And, who's more cool than AJ and Curtis? Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
also, Paul worked with our director, Brian, and Brian was just so excited. They did Swindon together, I believe.
The ballroom scene gives all sorts of opportunities. I bet the Fareham audience can't wait for that. And of course, it's a brand new venue as well. So that's exciting. I want to move on, Claire, with what you start to think in terms of choreographing the numbers. You've got the songs, you know where they're going to go. You've probably seen the set designs, and you obviously know the Eden Court stage like the back of your hand. So you can perhaps start mapping out shapes and so on. Is that how you progress?
Yes, so I am very lucky. I do know that theatre so well. So I know where everything's going to go in. And I've seen the set and it looks fabulous. It's glittery. It's wonderful. And I can also see, imagine how great it's saying, right, you've got this movable pieces, you've got those working doors. So you can really start. I try and start at the very beginning when I get the music and I get the cast and I get the show, that I start at the beginning and see that opening number and just make it come to life, and what the villager's going to do, what the fairy's going to do, and try and use the set that we have to really make the audience think, yeah, they live in there, and that's a dairy in there, and they're going to the shops, and just really make it come alive and give everyone the stories. So I try and create those stories before, and that's kind of where I start my dances, to do that and just kind of think, right, where's this got to go? Where, what are they feeling? And we've got such a great opening number. I don't know if we're allowed to say it, but
No, no, don't give it away.
no. It's something that everyone will know. And I know when Will starts to play it, that the audience are going to be uplifted immediately. So that's the feel that I want from the beginning. Because Jack and the Beanstalk goes on such a roller coaster that it's so good just to start up really high and have that fun family feel from the start.
Mitchell, is it the same for you? Is that the first priority, really? I mean, I think there are probably the two biggest numbers are probably the opening number with all the villagers in the village square or whatever, and maybe the walk down where everybody's involved. Are they the priorities when you're choreographing?
Yes, I mean the walk down. Yes, it's a huge moment. It's a party. And we always have an amazing finale with Imagine. They're really great, and we want the audience to get up on their feet and really enjoy it and feel immersed in the experience still at that moment. And of course, the opening, everyone wants to feel immediately immersed in the production. But yes, it is finding those moments in every number and making sure that we're making a cohesive storyline, because it is a story at the end of the day. So we want the direction to work with the choreography, with the pace, and with what's happening within the plot of the production.
And when you get into the rehearsal room, it's limited amount of time, as we all know, for everything, whether that's the acting, the slapstick, the tech, and everything has such a tight schedule. How do you prioritize the choreography in that? Do you go for the big numbers first, or do you just cherry pick performers to do certain pieces while they're not in other scenes? How does it work for you?
For me, I think it's about just being versatile, because we can go in with all great intentions of saying we're working chronologically or working with the big numbers first, but then something will happen. I'll lose the dame because the dame will be out doing a press call or something. So then I just go, right, what can I do within that time with people who aren't being used, and seeing work with Brian, or with music with the MD. So I think with all of us, it's about trying to have a plan, coming prepared, coming with additional tricks up our sleeve in case something doesn't work for whatever reason. but just communicating and trying to ensure that we get the most done. And for me, the more complicated sequences done towards the start of the rehearsal process, while everyone's fresh-eyed, bushy-tailed, and raring to go, because it's a fast process. They're long days, so we want to just get people while they're fresh and energized.
They are very long days, and Claire added to all of this. The cast may be rehearsing, doing numbers, scenes, going through the songs with the musical director and so on. And then in the evening, certainly maybe for that first week, you'll then be joined by the junior ensemble. You may have two or even three groups. I don't know about Eden Court. And so that's got to be organised as well. So you've got dancers in there, you've got actors in there who can move, and then you've got children in there as well. That adds an extra complication, really, doesn't it? How do you cope with all that, Claire?
It does. It's a lot. I mean, the children are fabulous. We've got three teams up in Eden Court, three teams of eight. And they come in for the first 2 days, and I just have them on my own, which is great. There's no adult ensemble or cast. It's just me and Stephen working with the juniors. And I try and get all their dances done so that even if it's fast paced and it's kind of thrown at them a little bit, it gives them that time to let it sink in and go, okay, I've got the space, I can get it. And then on the Wednesday, I try and do the opening number with the adult ensemble during the day if I can. So then when the juniors come in, they feel like they've got a wee bit of a head start, so they can relax a little bit more into it. And it's a wee bit of a slower pace. And the adult ensemble have picked up really quickly. We'll put the cast members in. And it's usually a really fun first night to for them to get to know us and everyone to come together and create the opening number. And then from there, it all kind of goes a bit chaos. We normally will have a plan, but yeah, it can things throw up. This year we've got obviously the beanstalk. So a whole night might end up on that. We've got fight scenes, that takes time to put together. But yeah, we try and get the bulk of it done, for the first few days when, yeah, as you say, if everyone's fresh-eyed and bushy-tailed and wanting to learn everything, and then we take it a bit slower. But yeah, it's a lot to do. And also Stephen is in the pantomime. So he not only directs it, he's also my dame. So I lose him quite a lot. I don't have him. So we sometimes will try and get a little half hour, just the two of us at lunch or just to go over things. I'm also in it. So it's hard to kind of jump in and out and say, right, I know that's where I am. I'll just forget about me until the tech rehearsals.
I mean, it's a special skill as well, isn't it, Mitchell? I know that you've worked at Arts Ed and Guildford, GSA, and others, but working with people of all abilities, particularly children, takes a lot of patience apart from anything else, doesn't it?
It does, but do you know what? It's wonderful for us to have a family production in terms of an audience, but also on stage, and it's worth every moment. And it's something that the director Brian Hodgson is amazing at, is incorporating the children into scene work as well as the musical numbers. But it's always worth it. It's worth having everyone on stage for those moments. And everyone works so hard. So as long as you work towards everyone's skill set and everyone's skill base and make sure there's moments where everyone can really shine and really take the spotlight, then, the production just becomes $1 million.
Now, unlike Claire, who obviously is in the show, once you get past dress rehearsal and opening night, I guess you have to walk away, Mitchell. You might have another job to do apart from anything else. It's quite sad in a way, isn't it? Because you've worked so hard for an intensive couple of weeks with everybody, and then you walk away.
It is. It's like handing a baby over. However, it's wonderful. And when we go back, and we very often go back and do a show watch, it's great when you see everyone up on stage and they've got that infectious energy that comes from a company that are really enjoying themselves. And that really impacts the audience experience because the audience in turn absolutely love that. We go back and we think, do you know what? We've done our job as well as we could. And it's great when everyone bonds and we just have a fantastic time. And when you start seeing the dames or the uglies all getting a bit cheeky, and you think, fantastic, this is exactly what Panto's all about. It's wonderful. So it's a bittersweet moment, I think, for us.
Which is your favourite panto, Mitchell?
Oh, you asked me first. Oh, difficult. Oh, I've been thinking about this so long. It still has to be Cinderella. It has to be Cinderella. It's a traditional panto. You've got the wonderful storyline that everyone knows. You've got the sort of a transformation sequence of the end of Act One. You've got all those significant moments like the clock strikes midnight. Ugly Sisters as well. You've got so I just think it really brings a lot of the traditions of pantomime to the stage.
Okay, Claire, what about you?
Well, I was going to say Cinderella. I think that was my first I was in. But my first part was Tinkerbell when I was 8, in Peter Pan. And I've now gone full circle and I've played Mrs. Darling in Peter Pan. So it has a very special place for me. I think it's one of those wonderful stories that is such a story. Everyone knows it. And, when they come, they see the traditional Peter Pan, but also with the pantomime edge, you've got the dame, you've got the silly Billy, you've got all that with it. So it's just one big, wonderful Christmas package with Peter Pan. So yeah, I'm going to say my favorite at the moment. It changes all the time, but I would say Peter Pan.
Some people say all pantos are the same at the end of the day. They've got a slosh scene, they've got a dame, they've got, the same sort of routines. But actually, they're subtly different in so many ways. And Cinderella is so much more fairy tale driven with less of an adventure. Peter Pan, Jack and the Beanstalk, Dick Whittington, all of those have very strong adventures as well. Now, it's exciting for you, particularly Mitchell, this year because it's a brand new venue. How excited about Fareham Live are you?
Oh, it's going to be amazing. It's super exciting. We've been very lucky because a lot of our production meetings we've been able to see what's happening to the theatre before it's even been opened. But it's so exciting, and going down to take the Junior Ensemble auditions, you can see there's a real buzz for the production down in Fareham. So for us to be able to come down and again mount this production, bring that story to life with, let's be honest, a pretty fantastic team. I can't wait. Sometimes I can't believe my luck. It's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to Christmas, I'm sure. And Claire, I'm hoping this year that, we mentioned all sorts of abilities and using the actors to their best sort of potential. I'd kind of like to see Stephen Wren doing tricks and backflips this year. Is there any likelihood of that?
He does a lot of tricks in those 6-inch heels, I tell you. A backflip, maybe not, but we could maybe get the male ensemble to give him a hand this year and we'll flip him over in one of those fabulous frocks.
But
He's up for anything, Stephen, which is the best that you want. We've been very lucky with the adult cast that they just throw themselves into it.
And
So yeah.
obviously, completely different for you, because Mitchell's working in a brand new venue. You're working in a venue you know better than anybody, really, but you're still excited, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely. Every year. I think the thing with Eden Court is we're very lucky. The staff there have worked there for so long. So when we come for those 2 months, they take us in and we're just one big family and they're just as excited for the production, and they're telling everyone to come and see it. So yeah, it is my home theatre and I'm very lucky to be at home at Christmas time. But we have audiences that travel from all over Scotland to come here because we don't have that neighbourhood panto. The next one is maybe Aberdeen, Glasgow and Edinburgh. So yeah, we're very lucky that people travel in all weather conditions to come and see us, and we'll give them the best show.
We wish you all the very best for your panto seasons in Fareham and up in Inverness. Thank you so much for giving us an insight into what you do as choreographers, Claire and Mitchell. Thank you so much for your time.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And that's it for now. In the next episode, I'm going to be chatting to a West End stage, television and radio actor, the panto veteran Andy Hockley. So please remember to subscribe through your favourite podcast app and make sure you join me, Martin Ballard, next time for episode 92.
Thank you for listening to the latest edition of Just Imagine, the podcast series from Imagine Theatre. And you can find out more by going to www.imaginetheatre.co.uk.